The crazy thing about what we do in real estate is that we are really like, we're blowing up a paradigm that everybody has been taught since they were young, right? And it's been taught for generation upon generation, like you mentioned, which is like, how do you buy a piece of real estate? Well, you save up a bunch of money and then you go ahead and you find your local agent, which is more than likely a friend of the family at this point. And then you go identify a property and then you have a slight amount of negotiation on price typically. So that we can go get a bank loan and go buy it. And whether that's for your own personal residence or that's going to be your investment property. And that slows down the process of either getting enough real estate to retire or to be able to grow and scale at a lifestyle which you want. Because then after that, you really have one or two choices. You can either buy on creative financing or you got to go raise a whole bunch of money because it's a scaling problem. So when we talk about really different tools in our tool belts, depending upon what's going on with the seller, will then point us in which direction. So we use seller financing, which is a major component, especially of residential, commercial, multifamilies, which just means that instead of going to get a bank loan, the seller loans you the property. And there's really no actually exchange your money on that mortgage. It's just now the seller, instead of receiving a bunch of money and getting hit on taxes, now they're going to go ahead and they're just going to have a note or, secured by a mortgage on the property. It just means you're going to pay them instead of a bank, which gives you more flexibility in the terms, which gives you more opportunity to buy a property right and to still make money for it. And also for the seller, it allows them a bunch of flexibility too, because they're not going through the long, drawn out traditional process. And so then if there is a mortgage on the property, then you're really going to go the other strategy, which is very well known nowadays, right? Subject to deals. Everybody's at least heard of it, but most people don't know how to actually do it. A subject to deal just means that instead of going to get a bank loan, you just keep the current bank loan that's on the property and you just pay it on the seller's behalf. Because it's more likely that bank loan that it's better debt than today's debt. That's why it's so popular nowadays, because during COVID and before, interest rates are averaging 2, 3, 4, 5%, which allowed you to actually still make money. But if you go get new debt at 6.5% to 7%, 7.5%, there's no money to be made. And that's why you see all these properties sitting on the market, because the seller still has the traditional mentality and they can't find a buyer that actually wants to purchase the property because it doesn't make any money. And then the last strategy or tool is what we call lease option. Now, this was one of the strategies that I used most often at the beginning of my business because this is your true, like, no money down deal, right? You can go take over a property from a seller without having to deal with transfer tax, closing costs, you name it, or down payment, because you're just controlling the asset and then having the ability to go ahead and sell it. And I'll talk about how we exit our deals too, which I think is going to differentiate us from any other creative financing seminar, workshop, whatever you want to call it, because we exit a very different way. Like, we're not buying these to necessarily buy and hold, although that is one of our strategies. We're buying them to sell our rent to own, which allows you to tap into a massive market of people, which is roughly 80% of Americans that can't walk into a bank and get a loan. So we're really talking about two creative acquisition and exit strategies that really allow you to capitalize on today's current market, not be like everybody else out there that's complaining. No, we have so much opportunity, more opportunity than I've ever seen in the past decade that I've been in real estate.
Because our market here in Phoenix, so I'm excited that you're coming down, it's rarely unique. More listings are coming on the market than you have. Buyer demand is weak. And so sounds like this might fit, right?
For sure. Because when you say buyer demand is weak, that means you're talking about the people that can walk into a bank and get a loan right now, which is maybe one fit, right? So now the way we work is we work with those that are interested in becoming a homeowner. They would like a pathway to homeownership, but they don't know how. So we go ahead and we present our rent to own program, which is simply just a pathway to getting somebody not bankable to bankable.